Hey guys, welcome to my channel. So today I'm going to be doing a true crime story. The title of the story is going to be Hong Kong's Notorious Hello Kitty Murder. Now, some of you may have probably already heard about this story and some of you may have not. I not too long ago heard about this story, and when I heard about it, I literally, you guys, was blown away. I decided to kick off my channel with this story because I found it to be pretty interesting. I decided to share it with you guys and see what you guys thought about some of the events that took place in the story. So without further ado, if you want to hear about the Hello Kitty murder, then keep on watching. So this story took place in Hong Kong in 1999, and there are three main people in this story. The first is a 14-year-old girl with a pseudonym by the name of Afong. The second character in this story is a woman by the name of Fan Man Yi. I'm gonna place her picture right here. And the third person in this story is a man by the name of Chan Man Lok. Now I am looking down because I do have notes because I wanted to get their names pronounced right and I didn't want to get confused. So basically how this story happened is there was this 14-year-old girl, there was this 14-year-old girl by the name of Afong, and one day she like randomly walked into a police station and she was trying to tell them that there was this ghost that was haunting her. And the policemen were just like, you know, child, what are you talking about? And she's like, no, like there's this ghost that is following me. It's a woman, and I literally cannot rest until I tell you guys what happened. So the police are just like, you know, what the hell? Like, what is this little girl talking about? So they decided to hear her out. The story starts by the woman in this story, Fan Man Yi. When she was a child, unfortunately, she was abandoned by her family. So she grew up in a all-girls home. And by the time she was a teenager, she was involved in prostitution and in drugs. And she was that way for some years, and then by the age of 23 she was able to get a job working as a hostess. I'm believing it. I'm pretty sure it was either like in a restaurant or a bar or something like that. So one day this man by the name of Chan Man Lok came in with one of his henchmen, and he was a drug dealer and a pimp. And he only wanted Fan Man Yi to service him and his men anytime he came and visited the restaurant. So if you put two and two together, you have this man who was a pimp and a drug dealer, and then you have this woman who was a prostitute and a drug addict. So one day Fan Man Yi decided that it was a bright idea to steal Chan Man Lok's wallet. Now in this wallet was $4,000. Yeah, it was $4,000. So she got really nervous after she stole it, and she wanted to tell him, but she didn't. Chan Man Yi and his henchmen had a feeling that Fan Man Yi had stole his wallet. So they decided to kidnap her. They kidnapped her, they drugged her, and they decided that they were going to prostitute her as a way of her earning some of his money back. And they put her out for prostitution. But Chan Man Lok started thinking, and he was like, I don't necessarily think that putting her out for prostitution is going to make me my $4,000 back. And he was so, you guys, he was so angry. He decided that he wanted to seek revenge on Fan Man Yi. So what he decided to do was kidnap her. So him and his friends kidnapped her, and they took her to this like abandoned building. And in this abandoned building, they kept her in this vacant apartment. This apartment, they tortured her. Now here in the video is where I'm going to put a disclaimer. If you guys are sensitive to hearing gruesome things, then I'm going to ask you to fast forward past this video for like 1 to 2 minutes until I get to the next part. So they took Fan Man Yi, and literally, you guys, they tied her up by her arms with electric wire to a ceiling, and they tortured her. They did things like beat her, they cut her, they put out their cigarette ashes on her face, on her body, on her arms, on her stomach, on her legs. They tortured this woman, and she was completely defenseless. Now, how the 14-year-old little girl, Ah Fong, comes into play is because she was there during some of the times that Fan Man Yi was getting tortured. And this little girl actually would partake in some of these beatings that Fan Man Yi was enduring. And it was supposedly said that Ah Fong, the 14-year-old little girl, was the girlfriend of Chan Man Lok, this 34-year-old man. You guys, that is insane. And it was also said that she would prostitute for him, but I mean, nobody really knows. So one day, Ah Fong had said that she witnessed Fan Man Yi being kicked in her head over 50 times by Chan Man Lok. And she decided that she would go and partake, and she started kicking Fan Man Yi in her head as well. One day, Chan Man Lok came home to find Fan Man Yi in the bathroom dead. She was dead. So what him and his friends decided to do was they decided to take her body and put it in the tub. And they took a saw and they cut her body up into these tiny little pieces. They boiled her body in order to stop her body from decomposing. They sawed off her head as well. So what Chan Man Lok decided to do was take Fan Man Yi's severed head, and he decided to cut it and stitch it into this into the head of a Hello Kitty mermaid that he had in this vacant apartment. Now keep in mind, in this vacant apartment, everything in there was decorated Hello Kitty. It was said that this man was obsessed with Hello Kitty. He had Hello Kitty dolls. He had Hello Kitty stuffed animals. He had Hello Kitty pillowcases, sheets, curtains, you name it. That whole apartment was full of Hello Kitty from this 34-year-old man. So they boiled her head as well, and they said that they did that because they wanted to try to take the skin off of her face, because they didn't want anybody to be able to identify her if she was ever found. So the police decided to follow up and do an investigation on what Ah Fong had told them. And she led them to this apartment, and they went to the apartment and they found Fan Man Yi's bodily organs, because they were removed from her body. They found some of her organs in a refrigerator in Ziploc bags, you guys, Ziploc bags. They found some of her other body parts cut up, boiling on the stove, and they found her severed head in the head part of the Hello Kitty mermaid. Now I am going to insert pictures so that you guys can get an idea of what I'm talking about and put a face to some of these people. So when you think about it, this lady, by the way, she did have a son. He was very young. Fan Man Lok was brutally murdered by these gangsters who kidnapped her, drugged her, raped her, beat her, tortured her, and eventually murdered her. And she had this one little son and her family who was never able to give her a proper burial because of what these men did to her. Now, they did go to jail, Chain Man Lok and his henchmen, and they received life in prison with the chance of parole, which means that her sentence was reduced from murder to manslaughter. And the reason why they were able to receive parole within 20 years of them serving time is because they couldn't decide whether she died from a self-inflicted drug overdose or whether she was brutally murdered. The jury somehow couldn't figure that out. And so they told Chain Man Lok and his friend that they would be able to receive parole within 20 years of them serving their sentence. How crazy is that? How crazy is that? So I did find out that they did tear down this building, because how creepy would it be to keep the building actually standing? And they did turn it into a hotel, you know. But to think that the spirit of this woman was haunting this 14-year-old girl who did partake in some of her tortures and her beatings. In the end, it's just like a really sad situation. It's a really sad story, and it's really a horrible way for somebody to die and to pass on. It seemed like she suffered tremendously in the hands of these men, and it just seemed like she had a really rough upbringing. You know, she was abandoned by her family. She ended up being in an all-girls home. By the time she was a teenager, she was on drugs and she was into prostitution. She was able to get a job. I'm hoping that she maybe was trying to get her life together by the time she was 23. But then she ended up running into this man who eventually murdered her. So, I mean, you guys comment down below, keep a conversation going, and tell me what you guys think about this story. If you like this story and you want to hear more stories, then please like this video. Don't forget to comment and subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you guys will be notified whenever I upload a video. I want to thank you guys for watching my very first true crime story, and until next time, bye.